Hi everyone, this is Emmanuel from Italy, but you know me better as Evil Dead Italia. This evening or today, depending on your time zone, we are going to have some very cool guests from California, Santa Cruz, the casting crew from Evil Dead the musical that is going to be released in Santa Cruz. So, without any further ado, I'm going to make me join the people which are working on this musical. And please welcome Greg. Hello, Greg.
Hello. Sorry, I was on mute there for a second.
Yeah, that is the producer of the show. Davis, that is the director.
Nice to be here.
Marcus, that is the hash of this musical.
Groovy.
And last but not least, Lisa, that is the Shelly of the musical. So
hi, thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. So thank you everyone for being here. It's a real pleasure, even because I really love the musical, even if sadly I never watched it from in live, but just from a very old bootleg DVD you can find at convention stuff. There was one year I was in Chicago, 2015. There was a crowdfunding to bring the show during the convention, but something goes wrong in the end. We missed this occasion. So first of all, I would like to ask to Greg, maybe even to all you guys, what was the, let's say, the starting of this all? What was the reason for which you decided to put yourself in this adventure?
Yeah, that's my fault.
Yeah, pretty much.
So I'd seen a couple productions of Evil Dead the musical before. One in Folsom, which is near Sacramento in California, and a couple times before the pandemic in San Jose. Maddie Gregg does Evil Dead the musical HD, the high definition version, and I'd seen that a couple times. I think he moved to the East Coast a couple years back, so that took the San Jose show away, which is kind of the closest production to where we are in Santa Cruz. And I was kind of like, I want to go see Evil Dead the musical again, but there, closest one was almost 3 hours away. And so I decided, well, maybe I should just try to make it happen myself. And so I put a little announcement on it's like a local Facebook group for the local theater community, and just saying, hey, anybody interested? And I would say probably within like 3 hours or so, I had Davis message me, and also our co-producer Miguel message me, and then it just kind of started from there. And we were planning on doing it next year to have a little extra time to plan, raise funds and whatnot. And then a local theater company had to cancel their fall production of what they were planning on doing.
And what was it?
The Music Man. So we're a little different. Slight change of pace. And so we just made a proposal, and probably, going from the Music Man to Evil Dead the musical, what we weren't expecting to get approved or whatever. But I think maybe other people had proposed things as well. But much to our surprise, they said yes, and so then here we are.
That's great. And how much is complex getting the license for this one? I mean, this year, if I'm not wrong, they opened worldwide the possibility to get the license. In fact, the last episode I had the girls from Evil Dead the music in Stockholm.
Yes.
And
I messaged them to say hi, and we chatted a little bit. And if you're watching, hello.
And so I know it's a licensed show, and so I'm curious about the procedure. I mean, how much it's hard. What do you have to, let's say, show them to get the license? I mean, you have to. There is some kind of requirements. Is a complex thing, or is just let's call the fee.
Yeah. So Mountain Community Theater, who's doing the production, they kind of handle that end of things. And from what I know of the process, you just send in your proposal. You have to tell them where it's going to be, how many weeks your production is going to run for, how many nights, and how many seats, and then they have some little algorithm that they feed all those numbers into, and it spits out a price, and then you pay and get the license, and then you get all the script, all the stuff comes digitally. And they might have a thing like if there's another production too close around at the same time, they deny your license. I'm not sure.
There was another production. There was another production, it turned out, that seemed to go under our radar or come up very fast that we weren't aware of. We didn't know until like it was just about to open. There was a production in Monterey that some of us went to see, and that was at a much smaller venue called Paperwing Theater. It's like almost like a dinner theater-y place, but that came out of nowhere. But that was in August too, so just this month, and it will be done by the end of the month. So I guess it didn't conflict, or ours didn't conflict with them. I don't know when they applied for the rights, but that was kind of cool that didn't present a problem. So it's just another opportunity for people to see the show.
Yeah, and about 8 or 9 of us from this production actually went down to see their production. It was fun, and they did a great job.
That's great. And in talking about the production itself, how much hard is to find the right guys to do this job? I mean, it's a very
I'll let Davis do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I'm really picky about casting. That's one of the things that I pay a lot of attention to. When I did the last show I did with MCT, I did Assassins, the Steven Sondheim show, and that took basically, I knew I was going to have a chance to do the show, and then it kind of took a course. There were a couple people I knew I wanted to cast, and then it took over the course of like still a year, keeping my eyes out for certain roles that I didn't know, and that's kind of a thing that I do. So there were certain people that for this production I called in like, hey, I'd really like to see you in this. And then it was a lot of searching, and both Marcus and Lisa were people that I didn't really know very well. I knew Marcus barely. I had worked with him briefly or auditioned with him for an improv group. And Lisa I didn't know at all, but Lisa came and killed it. She's so funny in the role as Shelly, and she's done it in San Diego before too. So she came with this prior experience, and but the Ash search did take a little longer. We went through looking at a lot of people, and Marcus was the right guy for the job. Like it became super clear. So, but yeah, it took a while. The auditions went on kind of a while.
That's great, and always production wise, this is one show that is a very peculiar aspect. That is the splatter zone.
Yeah, it's one way of putting it.
But even the props. So can you talk about a little bit about how you get this stuff? How did you get this produced? There is difficulties.
Well, if I can start off real quick, we came with a couple elements of kids. There have been challenges and there have been great gifts so far in doing this production. One of the gifts, again, has been people that are really passionate about the production, just getting involved, sort of inserting themselves, including our props master, who also plays the role of Scotty, had done a production in, I forget, Greg, do you remember where he did? Where
I might be wrong, but I know there was a production a few years ago down in Santa Maria, and like off the Central Coast. It might have been that one.
That
but
one, yeah.
That was with PCPA.
Oh, okay, is that what it was? PCP, yeah.
My alumnus.
Okay.
Oh, so cool. Yeah, but our Scotty and our props master had done the show before, and he was basically contacted us like, guys, I want to be involved. I've done the show, and he has so many props already that he made. Like he has props of like the little bridge that is brought on stage, both the wrecked one and the intact one, stump hand, various hands. He had the chainsaw thing. He had all of these already and prepared to go. And then he was also like, can I audition? I'll be an extra demon if you guys want. And we wound up casting him as Scotty, and he's also hilarious. And he and Lisa have such great chemistry. So like that was one thing that already landed in our favor in this bizarre way I wouldn't have predicted. So many of those props we've already got.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, and I had a few things already just from collecting, and I know there's one company that actually is just releasing a Army of Darkness, I believe, specific replica chainsaw.
Yeah,
and I pre-ordered that as soon as I saw it, so we should have that. I think they're shipping pretty soon, so we'll have our choice of chainsaws when it comes time for the show. But yeah, it was funny. We met Sean before the auditions, I believe, and I thought he was just going to come help with props, and then all of a sudden he showed up to the auditions, and my first thought was, what are you doing here?
He was the first one.
Yeah, oh, that's true. Yeah, he was the
there very
early.
First one.
Yeah,
I'll jump into one thing that I was called in late into the casting process, because I will say, kids, don't forget who you left your resume with 20 years ago.
Yeah,
there are people that find you and remember you, and suddenly you get a phone call for your dream role. So never say no to an audition, because someday your resume might come back up and you get that. But Scotty or Sean, our props master who's playing Scott, I saw him at the first, or what was really one of the last auditions, but I came in late, and he and I did What the Fuck Was That? And immediately, my first hope was, I really hope I get to play Ash, but my second hope was, I really hope they cast him as Scotty. Because our dynamic hit like instantly.
Immediately. Yeah.
And so there was again, like Davis was talking about, there's these sort of small win-wins where things just sort of stumbled into place, which is very common in community theater. Like, you hope it doesn't all fall apart, and then actually the right things fall right into place where you want them.
Yeah, there's a lot of falling, is what we're saying.
And then
that works out.
I met Lisa at the first rehearsal, and saw her Shelly, and was just like, again, another one of those, just like, I don't know what rock they found her underneath, but she's incredible. So
yeah, I would say Lisa has everybody cracking up at pretty much every rehearsal.
Thanks. Oh wow, I'm so flattered. In the before times, I was living in San Diego and had the chance. I was in this production twice with the 10th Avenue Arts Center. And the first year I was just a demon, one of the extras. And the second year I got the part of Shelly. And the character was played so differently down there. It was much more sexual, whereas now I'm playing the character much more as a bimbo. And I'm really loving it. I feel like it's a chance to try a character that I've kind of been holding on to for years. And I feel like I just begged, like, every chance I got, I would just like smile and be like, yeah. And if you need anything at all, I'll be a demon. I'll be a moose head. I'll be the puppet, like anything at all. And fortunately, I talked my way in. I tricked them into casting me as Shelly, but I think they don't regret it. And if I may, one of the things that is really cool about this production is that all of us in the cast really like each other, to the point, where we're like whispering and telling each other jokes, and we're getting in trouble with our choreographer, and she's like, focus up. And we're like, sorry, we just want to hang out. So it's nice. It's nice when a cast, sometimes you get like, it just feels like magic, like Marcus and everyone has been saying, things like serendipitously falling into place, and it feels easy in some ways.
Yeah, I remember our first production meeting. We didn't, I think that we didn't quite have everybody cast yet, but we did a production meeting, and everybody's so enthusiastic about Evil Dead. There's so many fanatics involved in this.
Yeah.
That Miguel, the co-producer, he commented that he'd never been into this, a first production meeting where everybody was just so excited. And that was kind of nice to hear. It was just like, we already had this like momentum going.
Wow. Yeah, it's very cool when there is passion, for the subject of your work. I mean, and how many of you are fans in this podcast this evening of the original movies, and do you have any preference, including even the last ones? I mean,
yeah.
I mean, huge fan. Before we went live, I was mentioning that, kind of the same age you were saying, that 10, 11 years old. I think the first film that I saw was Evil Dead 2, and then the first one, and then Army of Darkness. And so I've always had a soft spot for Evil Dead 2. And then I wasn't the biggest fan of the 2015 or 2016, but then Evil Dead Rise I thought was beautiful. Like, I thought that was a brilliant piece of horror movie making. And it followed sort of the direct story of this musical of, you know, finding the Book of the Dead buried in a place where it shouldn't be, playing the recording, reading it, needing to reread it to bury the Kandarian like all of that. Like, it very directly follows the sort of baseline original story of Evil Dead. And then of course Ash versus Evil Dead. I'm approaching 40, and so it was really, really nice to have a fat gray-haired Bruce Campbell to look up to when I got cast, so that I didn't have to feel like I needed to play a college student. I felt like there is a sort of breadth, and I think that's the biggest thing for me, like with being a fan of the material for this long, there is a breadth to Ash specifically, where there are, you know, 3 or 4 different versions of him that you can lean on. And because the musical combines sort of 1, 2, a little bit of Army of Darkness and all of that, I just have this massive library of material to sort of pull from what Bruce Campbell created. And I can sort of sneak part from here and sneak part from here and sneak inspiration from here. And so it's like, I mean, what a great character. The fact that you get it played by the same guy in just hours and hours and hours of on film or on the TV show or whatever, that you can sort of pull inspiration from all these different parts. It's a blessing to have, because there are a lot of shows where you don't have, where as a good actor, you should be able to source your own character. But frankly, for Evil Dead, you kind of don't want to stray too far away from the man.
It's so iconic that you have to kind of take what strands of DNA you're going to recombine, you know. But yeah, because if it's too different, I that's the thing. I think it shouldn't be an imitation. Generally, you shouldn't feel constrained by that, but you should feel, like Marcus says, like the freedom to take those different shades of an iconic performance and then just kind of like turn it at different angles and find out which ones are meshing with you the most.
Well, yeah, especially you'll never copy Bruce Campbell. Like, Bruce Campbell is Bruce Campbell. That's the legend. Like, you can't sort of take that away. But he's given us so much to sort of pull from organically that it's a blast. Lisa, were you a young horror kid going to Blockbuster and curling up with Evil Dead, or did you find it later?
Yeah, I'm also closer to 40 than to 30. So I, thought I was like a really cool punk rock kid. So punk rock and horror kind of go together. I wasn't a very big fan. And after I got cast that first time in the with the 10th Avenue Art Center in San Diego, that's when I started really like delving in. And I really I almost feel like guilty being like, oh, I admit I'm not that big of a fan. Like, I feel like I'm more than the average person, but compared to Greg, Greg might be the number 1 fan.
Yeah. Well, Greg is something else. So.
Yeah, I know there's bigger fanatics than I am, because like there's people that just spend thousands and thousands of dollars of, you know, buying like, you know, actual pieces that were used in movies and stuff like that. And I will admit I do have a cassette tape and a photograph that were set used pieces from Ash versus Evil Dead, but someone actually gave them to me. I didn't spend money. But I do have hanging above my TV. I have posters from the first 3 movies. Well, I've got props and stuff at home. You know, I've got like an Ash mask.
Didn't you and
Campbell sign?
Yeah. Didn't you and your wife get like married on a Necronomicon prop?
Oh yes, yeah. During our wedding, we have the Trick or Treat Studios prop replica of the Necronomicon, and we used that to have our wedding vows read out of.
I didn't know this.
Yeah. And then the whole speech had, you know, pop culture references, but there was some Evil Dead references as well. It was
That's really cool. I think I met a guy who did the same thing, but I don't remember in which country. I was in Chicago for a convention, and he showed me the picture of his wedding with this Book of the Dead. That was made by Tom Sullivan for the event. He didn't want to do that for let's say, for the signing at the wedding, but at the end he convinced him to do even this one.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I know Bruce himself
it-
has married a couple fans. He's like performed the ceremony.
Yeah.
If only.
Yeah.
That would have been fun.
You said married a couple fans, and I took that the wrong way.
Yeah.
Performed the ceremony for
Yes,
Yeah.
no, I
Yeah,
caught
I know.
on.
Officiated.
Much like Ash, I'm
Thank
not
you,
the
David.
sharpest spoon in the drawer.
Yeah.
That's so cool. And well, this musical show a lot of blood, a lot of props. How much is physical acting like this, and how much is complex the rehearsal part? I mean, you cannot use all the blood or the stuff during the rehearsal, so how much is complex? The difference between the rehearsal and the actual show.
Yeah, it's definitely been it's like an incremental build, because also early rehearsals are usually, and this is the case with us, it's not like in the venue generally early on.
No, it's in a
like
church.
Yeah, it's in a
Cooler.
church for ours, which is great. Just around the corner. But it's like, so there are limitations, for one thing, to like, we don't have a lot of the set pieces. We have small props, but there's like, you can't, like, we have a lot of blood splatter tools already that Greg's been working on and things, but we can't really bring those in. Like, we'll start testing them probably with water, something that's just going to dry up before we use blood. But we can't really do that in other venues when we're rehearsing. So it's kind of like, well, we'll try this. But we have to plan out like body switching and stuff like that. Like, that's been one where I've had to, there's a lot of talking through kind of what our plan is. And there's a lot of discussion ahead of time with like Greg and with our set designer and all those people that these effects are dependent on. And then there's a lot of trust in there, and there's a lot of communication if things need to be, if we encounter stuff like, oh, here's a practical problem. We loop around and we're kind of like, okay, maybe here's plan A, here's plan B if this doesn't work. And so there's contingency things as things get built, but we've been addressing it in a lot of pre-production meetings and approximating early on.
And I think Lisa can speak to this as well. The best part about being an actor is that we're pretty good at playing pretend. Right? So when we need to pretend that something is the actual prop it's going to be, when I don't have a hand anymore, I'm just putting a sock over it until we have the full, like, it just is one of those things where, it's sort of built into the job that you have to play pretend, and you're rehearsing in shorts and tank tops, not costumes. So top to bottom, you're sort of doing the make-believe fantasy, and it just only gets, the more you commit to that early part when you don't have all the bells and whistles, when you do get the bells and whistles added, it just elevates it to a degree that's pretty incredible.
There is sorry.
No,
Continue. There is the Evil Dead Sweden musical that are following the live, and they say they are upset that you are rehearsing in a church.
Yeah, we rehearse at a church, and sometimes we have a room we rehearse in that has mirrors on the wall. And one thing for me that's a little bit different about this musical than others I've been in is our choreographer gives us some discretion on how to really bring our character out, even in these choreographed dance moves. So rehearsals are pretty physical in that we spend a lot of time moving our bodies and sweating and figuring out what we like and what we don't like. And it's really been great to have, the autonomy to kind of make character choices. It's been great, but it is a lot. It feels like a lot to me.
Yeah, sweaty being one of the key words.
There have been some sweaty rehearsals.
Yeah, during auditions, our choreographer, just like, getting the people to dance and stuff for the auditions, in between people, she said something like, "I need a shirt that says 'Get ready to sweat.'" So I just like cataloged that in my head, and then a few weeks ago presented her with a Evil Dead the Musical shirt that said "Get ready to sweat," and that I just custom made for her, and was like, "Here you go, you wanted it." But I don't think she wears it because it's too hot.
Yeah.
How do the rehearsal work? I mean, do you do the rehearsal in a sequential way, or you do pieces specifically?
It's a lot of pieces. For the most part, we just have had a couple of rehearsals where we connected a bunch of the scenes, but because you have like these various styles, like the choreography is a big part of some of these numbers, so you have to really buckle down and focus and repeat these sequences a lot to get them into kinesthetic memory. And then there's the scene pieces, which it is pretty easy to divide them and separate them, thankfully. But so there's been a lot of piecemeal on there. We're just now at the point where we've done so many of the dance pieces and the scene pieces where we can do large sequences. We did like all of Act 1, I think, except for a couple little slivers. But we did like 95% or so of Act 1. We're gonna do a lot of work on the fighting scene, the hand fight scene, speaking of which, like coming up. So that's exciting. But yeah, so it's been a lot more divided and piecemeal on there.
Great. And I suppose every one of you will have is going to have a favorite. I mean, I love, for example, What the Fuck Is That? But even A Smart Employee was one of my favorites. But for everyone is different. So what is your favorite? I mean, you can. I suppose you will have even different, no?
I'll start.
Yeah.
I really like Blew That Bitch Away. I just, what a fun way to end the show. And when I did the show in the past, all of us in the cast just did the quickest change in the world and came out as customers and then did this big finale number. And I remember one year there was so much blood on the stage, and someone was like running to their spot and slipped and fell, and their wig fell off.
And yet it works, right?
Yeah.
It was just so absurd. I was like, I love this show so much. Anything can happen, and it will.
Wow.
And it still fits.
Yeah, I mean, on a totally selfish note, I think my favorite number is Housewares Employee. And I only think because it was always my dream as a little kid to play Aladdin in the Disney movie. And that song is literally a whole new world. But in scale to the show itself and in scale to Ash within the show, it's, there's a lot of sort of cheeseball stuff happening, and that song is very cheesy, but it's one of the first chances Ash as a character gets to make just some really big, absurd choices.
Yeah.
And my partner, Sarah, who's playing Linda, is fantastic. We have great chemistry. And so when we were getting that shaped up, it was just a lot of fun to sort of see like how silly we could push each other and how far we could push that level of silliness until we're told to pull it back. And so far we haven't been told to pull back.
I don't think so. There's not a lot of opportunities where I'm like, oh, too much.
Yeah.
Kind of like on the
and then
scale.
And then it's time, but we haven't choreographed that yet. So I'm sure it'll find a deeper place in my heart. But musically, I think It's Time is a great song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely hard to pick a favorite. In the films, I love the physicality that Bruce brought to the hand fight, so I'm really excited to be working on that, and which is mainly, I think we're going to do a lot of that like this coming week. So it's intimidating to find that, but it's also like such in the script. It's one of those. It's like he fights with his hand and it does this, but it's like how long you do that is like its own thing. And that's a big part from the movies that I'm excited to work on. And I had a lot of fun with Marcus and Scott working on What the Fuck Was That as well. That's one that gets in my head a lot, and we did that. That one we just choreoed basically with myself and Marcus and Scott. And Marcus had a vision he wanted to bring as like a scene, and we approached it kind of that way, which works for me as a director. And we kind of discussed like, oh, what are they saying to each other here? What are they saying with each other there? And it kind of worked with this tango rhythm too. And I had a blast like working on that with them. That was one of my favorite nights. Cracking that one.
Yeah. Yeah, I think as a lot of people, I do like What the Fuck Was That? That whole tango-y kind of feel to it and stuff. And it has one of my favorite lines in any of the songs. I've got some Shelly on my shoe, which I don't know why, but I just absolutely love that line. And then I really like Join Us. I think I have a soft spot for like circus music and polkas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that one just makes me laugh every time because I just like corny things.
That's it. That's, I can't wait to see that with all the effects too, with all the other set because we have the moose, but then there's all these things we're going to build that like all the puppets and the books and things coming alive.
There's a lot going on during that song. Like, visually.
Yeah, that's going to be very exciting.
And I have a question for Lisa. I remember when I watched that bootleg DVD. Substantially, there is the moment in which the girls become demons, and it's very fast the way in which they change their aspect. So, technically speaking, how much is complex bringing that on scene? I mean, there is a mask, is a makeup. What is? I mean, the face is a little bit changed, so.
Well, I'm not 100% sure if I'm understanding what you're asking. So let me clarify. Are you saying that for those quick transitions from human to demon, it's like, how are we going to handle that?
Yeah, sorry,
TBD, because I've seen it done with some really cool, I don't know the term for it, like a prosthetic that could be
exactly.
And I've seen it done with makeup. So I think, we're going to find out which one's going to work best for us, unless Greg or Davis
we haven't surprised them with that part yet.
Well,
we actually...
my thinking is, go ahead.
No, go ahead, finish. It's fine.
Well, my thinking is, if I'm not looking perfect the first time I come out as a demon, I'm going to look perfect when I come out for Necronomicon. So, if it's a little hasty for my intro, so be it. Because we will have time to really make me look like the sexiest demon.
And physicality-wise, Lisa, you've done a great job with this version of the character that you've created, of being able to maintain a lot of the same sort of physicality that you had before, but drop into like a much zanier place, if that's even possible for Shelly. So as far as an actor goes, it's a switch that gets turned, that where you're bimbo Shelly. Now you're still bimbo Shelly, but everything's kind of not working right. Everything is broken a little bit. You're doing a great job with it.
Wow, thank you for noticing.
I have to warn you guys too, my phone is getting close to dying, so if it does, I'll get it plugged in and get remiked, but just giving you the heads up.
Yep.
Okay, that's great. And as I said, I never seen the musical by my side. I listened a huge amount of time the Broadway one, the CD. So how much do you use that as a benchmark? I mean, how much you can change? I mean, in the way in which you propose the song. I mean, there is some kind of, let's call it, personalization in tones, in rating and stuff. Or
I mean, it's been basically what we've rehearsed a lot to that, especially for choreo. So that kind of is basically the benchmark that we're aiming for in terms of the structure of it. There are maybe some times where we're probably going to try to keep some vamping, going on for some dialogue scenes or for some beats where we need to extend a little bit. But basically, that's what we've been going for and what we've been rehearsing with a lot of the time.
Yeah, from an actor's point of view, just like the Evil Dead films and TV shows, there are so many on and off Broadway and college productions that you can watch on YouTube that I look at all of it as a chance to see how somebody else did it. And no, not copy, but kind of like the word Davis used, pull DNA threads from things and say, I kind of liked how they were inspired in a certain way, and I'm going to try keeping that thought without actually copying what they're doing, because that's no one wants that. That's, as an actor, it's not that fun to play mimicry, but it is fun to have inspiration.
Yeah, I fully agree. I mean, even if I'm not an actor, I can feel it. And in regards to the whole cast, how many people work in this musical? I mean, it's a huge cast, I suppose. There are a lot of.
I've got it up on my other screen right here. Let's see. Let me count.
Yeah. Because we have a little more than some do, because some productions double cast for on some of the Shemps or for the S-Mart stuff. We have extended the cast, so there's more than the minimum amount.
Yeah, as far as our main cast and our ensemble cast, who some of them will be trees or S-Mart shoppers and whatnot, we've got 15.
Yeah.
And then we've got, a number of crew people and, and then, people like Davis and I. But yeah, cast is, 15.
That's cool. Okay. Well, I think even we were a lot. We were fast. We covered it all, except if you would like to talk about something specific. Well, there is one important thing maybe we need to address. What is the specific date for your musical? It's 20 September, right? It's 20th.
September 20th through October 20th. Every weekend. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So the Friday and Saturday shows, I believe, are 8 p.m. Sunday is sort of a matinee at 2 p.m. And then we sort of end the run on October 20th, but then we come back for a final Halloween show on October 31st, which will also be 8 p.m. And we intend to up the ante a little bit for that.
Yeah.
With possibly a little more blood, a little more going on. We have some surprises.
And are the tickets already buyable, or?
I believe August 30th at mctshows.org. And thank you again, of course, for Mountain Community Theater for helping us put this on.
We've been able to up the production value a whole lot. Then, assuming like if we had been self-funded next year, we would have had time to do some crowd racing. But this is like a proper theater, but like budget for this kind of thing. It's been very exciting. We're really putting some scale into it. So it should be a pretty exciting production, because this can be done very minimal. It's been fascinating to see all these different productions, like clips on YouTube, or even the one in Monterey. Like you can strip stuff away, or you can build up on this. So we're trying to use a lot of as many tools in our woodshed as possible on this. Yeah. So
it's very practical effects heavy. Whereas like I've seen like the HD show that they used to do in San Jose, and now I think Maddie tours with it around the East Coast. And that one, like their whole set, everything's digital, like the walls, the floor, even, and it's just, and they change all the sets just by changing what's on the screens. And then they have like a rollout cellar and whatnot, but it's a lot, it's very digital. So that's very sort of stripped down in a way, but also very flashy and complex visually, just because you can do anything on the screen, really. But then I've seen like the Folsom and the Monterey productions where, smaller theaters, but very props heavy, and I guess we're sort of maybe medium size. I don't know,
something like that, and
120-ish seats, maybe a few less than that actually.
But it's a good size, and one of the exciting things about this is also that it is the theater is basically a cabin in the woods.
Yeah, that's
it is this
great thing. It's
big wooden hall, and you have to drive through the woods. There's no way to get there without driving through a whole bunch of woods.
The building is actually a historical, it's designated as a historic building, and it does look like a large 2-story cabin in the woods, and you have to drive through the redwood forest up in the mountains to get there. So the setting is actually perfect, and but because it's a historic building, we have to we have to protect everything. It looks kind of like a set of Dexter, so we have tarps and plastic everywhere covering everything, and
that works.
Yeah.
That works with the vibe.
I published the link on the comments. This one, right? Is this one, right?
Yeah. So so starting, I think it's October 30th. October. August 30th.
Yeah. Buy tickets at the end of the run.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
They'll be on sale at that link, I believe, to the general public.
Okay, we lost Marcus, but he already said that. We had a comment from Bruce Campbell Memes, that is a huge page. Bruce Campbell, and he's from Canada, so he's going to see the musical in Toronto on October 20th.
It's so cool that we're seeing so many of these productions going on all over the world now. It's really fascinating. I think there's some clips on YouTube about a South Korean production I saw some clips of, and boy, the production value on that looked crazy. That was really cool.
There's one scene where it's like they're not in the production, they're doing it like a performance of one of the songs at some festival or something like that, and man, the lighting and fog and stuff they had on that is just really incredible, and it makes you kind of like want to shoot for something bigger.
Yeah, the community of this show has also been really something else. The moments we were sharing online, like, hey, we're doing this, like Greg can attest, we had people like from all over like chiming in and being like, oh, I'll come out to see that from wherever, or like, I'm gonna see it like so many times, or even other productions will follow or chain. The only show you want people to come out saying, what the fuck was that? Yeah. This is a remarkably, and your show too, I mean, I'm struck by how passionate the community is for this show. It's really something else.
Definitely people are coming from out of town for this one. I know some people I've heard are coming down from San Francisco, which is a little over an hour north of us. And there's an old historic lodge in the mountains, and we've got a deal going with them where if you show them your tickets for the show, you can get 15% off a room. So if you're coming from out of town, stay at the creepy old lodge to see a musical about a creepy old cabin in a creepy old theater.
Wow, that's a great deal.
Yeah. Evil Dead built community.
Yeah, so Brookdale Lodge, I should probably say.
Yeah, the Brookdale Lodge.
I'm so sad that I cannot join you and neither the Stockholm musical, because this year is a good news for me. But as my girlfriend is pregnant, substantially I had to let's say avoid any kind of travel during that period. So, and I mean, it's the first time it's coming. The musical is coming in Europe in English.
Interesting.
Because it was just here once in Madrid, but in Spanish.
Yeah.
So never been in Europe in English. So it's a very first time for that. And however, I have other to do, sadly.
Yeah. My wife's in Sweden right now, but she just missed their Stockholm production.
Oh,
it was a bummer. I know. Like, you should have gone to Sweden a few weeks earlier.
Yeah. That's
wow. Yes, Sweden is in September 2, if I'm not wrong.
Oh, is it? I thought it had already happened. Oh, maybe that's it. Maybe she's there too early. I know it was something.
It might
was
be that.
mismatched.
And, yeah.
I think they are in September 2 or something like that. They are working on it. I don't know if they are already. No, I think not.
No, okay. Yeah, you probably know better than I do. So I knew. I just remember from when it came up a month or so ago that I knew she was not there at the right time. But apparently maybe that's too early.
The funny thing from the Swedish musical is that the producer is called Linda, and she's going to perform the part of
The
Linda.
role of Linda. That's method acting, baby.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so thank you very much for being here. Please don't leave. I'm going to end the live, but I'm going to send it to you soon after. So please don't leave. So thank you everyone for following this live. Please follow the Evil Dead Santa Cruz, the musical Instagram profile. I'm going to post the link here.
And also MCT Show's Instagram. Go there as well, because they're kind of like our production company in a way. They're the theater company that's sort of making this happen. And,
I'm going to post both.
Yep.
There is Evil Dead the musical Sweden that is telling that your wife needs to come back in October.
Yeah.
So I'm going to share both the musical link and the theater link is MC. I always misspell it, but I'm going to find it for sure. MCT show. Here it is. Yeah. Okay. It's arriving very, very slow because I am slow.
Vamp.
Okay, here it is.
Oh, the suspense is killing me.
I know.
It's arriving.
When's it gonna drop?
There we are.
There they are.
There it is. Obviously, you can see it here, but very badly. But on Facebook and YouTube, they are clickable. So
yeah, there you go.
I suppose people can join there. Okay, so thank you everyone for joining us. It was a pleasure to have you here, guys. And as I said, good luck for the musical. I hope to see some clip on somewhere because sadly I cannot join you.
We'll have some clips. We'll have some little video teasers and stuff. So
okay. So I'm very curious. I cannot wait for that. And so thank you everyone for following, and see you in the next week probably with an episode dedicated to the making of The Marauder of Evil Dead Rise, as I interviewed all the studio guys and the concept artists. So they showed me what they did to create The Marauder. Fun enough, I interviewed them something like 3 months ago, but in the meantime stuff happened, so I didn't have the opportunity to show still the interview, but I'm going to take the opportunity to show in the next week. So
cool.
Thank you everyone.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you too.
Thank you.
And have a good night.